Under Philippine law, filiation or the status of being a child may be natural or by adoption. Natural filiation can either be legitimate or illegitimate, depending on the marital status of the parents at the time of the child's conception or birth. A child is considered legitimate if they were conceived or born during the valid marriage of the parents. This also includes children born through artificial insemination, using the sperm of the husband, a donor, or both, provided that there is a written authorization or ratification signed by both spouses before the child's birth. This document must be registered with the civil registry along with the child's birth certificate to maintain the child's legitimate status. Meanwhile, children born outside of a valid marriage are considered illegitimate unless otherwise stated in the law. There are instances where the legitimacy of a child may be challenged. The husband of the mother may file a case to question the legitimacy of the child under the following circumstances. 1. If it was physically impossible for him to have sexual intercourse with his wife during the period of conception. 2. If scientific evidence proves that he is not the biological father. Or 3. If in cases of artificial insemination, his consent was obtained through fraud, mistake, violence, or intimidation. However, even if the mother declares that the child is not legitimate or is found guilty of adultery, the law still considers the child legitimate. If a marriage is terminated and the mother remarries within 300 days, there are legal presumptions regarding the child's paternity. A child born within 180 days of the second marriage is presumed to have been conceived during the first marriage, while a child born after 180 days of the second marriage is presumed to have been conceived in the new marriage. If a child is born after 300 days from the termination of the previous marriage, the burden of proof falls on the party claiming the child's legitimacy or illegitimacy. The legitimacy of a child must be challenged within a specific period. If the husband resides in the same place where the child was born or where the birth was recorded, the challenge must be made within 1 year from the child's birth or its registration. If the husband lives elsewhere, the period extends to 2 years if within the Philippines and 3 years if abroad. If the husband was unaware of the child's birth, the period starts from the date he discovered the birth or its registration. In cases where the husband dies, his heirs may continue the case within the prescribed period. A child's legitimate status may be proven through 1. The child's birth certificate recorded in the civil registry or a final court judgment. 2. An admission of filiation through a public or private document signed by the parent. Or 3. Continuous recognition and treatment of the child as legitimate. A child may claim legitimacy at any time during their lifetime, and if they die during infancy or mental incapacity, their heirs have 5 years to file the claim. Legitimate children are entitled to inheritance and other rights under the law, including 1. The right to bear the surnames of both parents. 2. The right to financial support from parents, grandparents, and siblings. And 3. The right to their parents' estate as legitimate heirs. Illegitimate children may establish their filiation through the same evidence used for legitimate children. However, they generally use the surname of their mother and are under her parental authority, unless recognized by the father. They are entitled to support, but their inheritance rights are limited to half of what a legitimate child receives. Meanwhile, legitimated children are those born outside of wedlock, whose parents were not disqualified from marrying each other at the time of conception, except if they were below 18 years old. Legitimation occurs when the parents later enter into a valid marriage, and once legitimated, the child gains the same rights as a legitimate child, with the effects retroacting to the time of birth. If a legitimated child dies before the marriage of the parents, their descendants may still benefit from legitimation. Legitimation may only be challenged within 5 years by those whose rights are affected. The classification of children as legitimate, illegitimate, or legitimated plays a significant role in determining their legal rights, surname, inheritance, and parental support under Philippine law.